y'all ready to head off the trails? I'm the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones, and I'm ready to take you on a mysterious journey right now. We will off the trails right here on the Spaced Out Radio's YouTube channel. If you guys haven't hit subscribe yet, please do. We would love to have you. And shout out to Bumblefoot for that amazing intro music. I always appreciate that. It's really awesome. All right, you guys, please follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. You guys can find me at thecryptidhuntress.com and please subscribe to my awesome YouTube channel. That's the Cryptid Huntress, where I have live shows every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And it will not disappoint you guys. Just go subscribe if you haven't already, please. Also, if you guys would like to support what I do, I have a Patreon. It's the Cryptid Huntress over on Patreon. And also, my shop is called War Woman Goods, where I sell vintage Native American turquoise jewelry and other fine goods over there on Etsy. Again, that's War Woman Goods. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It means the world to me. Okay. And oh my gosh, do I have a fantastic guest here tonight? I have John Vandeventer in the studio tonight. And we're going to be talking about UFO, Skinwalkers, and Sasquatch. Okay. But don't forget that right after this show, Marquise has a really cool program set up for us on After Hours. So let's get to our guest tonight. John Vandeventer is originally from Plano, Texas. He's a 16-year veteran of the United States Air Force. He's had a lifelong love of military aviation history and an interest in UFOs. Let's see. His first novel, Relics, he's an accomplished author, y'all. His first novel, Relics, was first published in 2017. In 2018, he and his wife moved to Honobia, Oklahoma, in the heart of Oklahoma Sasquatch Country. He was a guest speaker at the Honobia Bigfoot Festival in 2018 and served as the MC in the 2021 festival. He's now completed 2 complete series, RELICS Fiction adult series and the Shadow Chasers young adult fictions series. John decided to retire, and he's devoted himself to being a full-time author now. He's not really retired. He's busy writing books all the time. And tonight, John is here with us at Spaced Out Radio. Please help me welcome to the show my friend, John Vandeventer.
Hi, Jessica. Good to see you again.
Hey, John. Thank you so much for being here tonight. It's always fun having you on.
Yeah, I always enjoy this show.
Oh, my gosh. Well, you've been busy.
It's not like work. It's fun.
I know, right? That's like me too. I love doing these shows. I have so much fun. I get to hang out with cool people like you, and it's not work at all, really. When you love what you're doing.
Do I need to send you some money for calling me cool?
No, just send me a book every now and then. I
love
okay.
Your books. We can do that.
I absolutely love your books, and John, you live in the heart, literally in the heart of Sasquatch Country, out in Oklahoma. Did I pronounce Honobia right tonight?
Yes, Honobia. That's how they pronounce it.
Okay, and it's not spelled anything like that.
No, Honobia doesn't spell Honobia in my book, but I'm pretty sure that's the Choctaw way. The Choctaw way of saying Honobia is Honobia.
Oh wow!
I've heard it stood for different things. It was the name of one of the founding families out here. I've heard it's Choctaw for place of the dead man. I don't know which one's the true story. I do know it may be Honobia, may be Choctaw for low bandwidth, but
low bandwidth. John, you're so silly. You're funny too. You're funny and you're smart. I like that very much. Yeah. So that would mean you said the dead people. What did you say that was Choctaw again?
No, I read that somewhere. When I was doing research for the books, that it's place of the dead man or something like that. Now there is a dead man's hollow just north of me, about a mile in the mountains behind me, and I know there's a dead man's hollow there. I don't know if it's named for that or what, but
well, would that point towards maybe skinwalkers in your area? Is that what that refers to?
I don't know. I just kind of ran across the Choctaw Skinwalker legend when I was writing this latest youth book, And, you know, there's a different spin on it. The Choctaw here, you know, the Ishkatini, that's their word for horned owl, great horned owl. But it's also like a spirit that will, when it screeches at night, somebody's going to die. Somebody, if you hear it, somebody you know is going to die. Now, the other Gulf Coast tribes, like the Creek tribes in Georgia, in your neck of the woods, they're Ishkatini. They believe in it too, but it's more of a skinwalker in their tribal customs. Like, you know, it actually assumes the kind of a shape of like a man owl, and during the day they appear as human, you know, like a normal human being, but then at night they change into this, you know, instead, like you have your Navajo skinwalkers turning into whatever, a wolfman kind of thing. What is it they turn into? I forget. But anyway,
yeah,
this tribe believes they turn into like a kind of like a weir owl, or if you had a
weir owl
with owl and man instead of wolf and man, it's something like that. And it actually to change, it has to vomit up its soul and some of its innards. And if it eats like a human, it can walk during the day looking like the human whose innards it is ingested. And then, yeah, so it was pretty interesting. And so when I was writing that book, you know, I thought, that's a little scary for some of the youngsters, but I toned it down a little bit. But it was a really interesting story.
John, I think that's right up my son's alley, because he loves talking about all the gross stuff. Okay. Vomit, skin. He loves skinwalkers. Okay. My son is obsessed. He told me he wants to be the skinwalker hunter, is what he told me. That's his name. He wants to be the skinwalker hunter, John. That's pretty terrifying for a mother.
The cryptid huntress son becomes the skinwalker. That fits. Carrying on the legacy.
It's not so weird coming from a mother like myself, right? So
yeah, I can see it. Absolutely. Well, I'll get him a book this week. I have just, like, in the last couple of weeks, got my copies in of Curse of the Ishkatini, my latest book. But I've been so busy trying to get this next book out, I haven't really sent any out yet. So I'll get one to him.
Well, thank you. I know he'd appreciate that. He's got your other book, and Shadow Chasers, and it's amazing. We really appreciate you, John. And,
you're very welcome.
And just putting the information out there, and you're one of my favorite. You are my favorite author, actually.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you are. Because I mean, I don't really have time to read books anymore, but I read your books.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yes, I read your books any day, absolutely. And I'm glad that you said Ishtakini or Ish before I said it, because I can't pronounce it. Obviously, I was actually a little worried about having to pronounce that tonight. So
you need to do a little time in Oklahoma. They'll straighten you up down here.
I do,
down in
absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, okay, so I have seen. Okay, somebody sent me pictures, or it's actually a video one day, John, of. Okay, let me give you the background first. Okay, so people send me videos and pictures all the time because I'm the cryptid huntress. Okay, and so I get weird stuff sent to me pretty often. And one day, somebody sent me a video of a woman who was camping out in a campground. She heard some strange noises outside and just assumed that it was a Bigfoot, but she didn't know for sure. So she took her camera phone and she went and she scanned the area with her phone and took a video. She didn't hear anything else, and then she went back to bed. Okay, well, the next morning she checked her phone, and in her phone on that video, there was a gigantic, it looked like a human in a tree, naked, but also like an owl as well. It was like an owl man. Okay.
Well, there you go.
In a tree. I'd never heard of this before. Okay. And so now it kind of makes sense, because I thought maybe it was just some, feral human or God knows what. You don't know what you're going to get out there in those woods sometimes, but that would make sense that could be what she saw. And I saw it in the video. I have to find that video and post it or send it to you, John.
Yeah, post it if you can find it. I'd like to see that.
I will. It actually might. I think it made its rounds on the internet a while back too. So I'll look that up. But yeah, I've got some still shots I need to send you. Because that's pretty terrifying. Yeah. And so owls actually do regurgitate their food, right? Is that what they do? They throw it up and they...
Well,
I don't
I
know.
guess. They may. Don't they throw it up to feed their young?
I know birds do. I guess
Yeah,
there's bird right
I
there.
don't know.
I don't know.
You know what? I wasn't studying real owls. I was studying cryptid owls. So
Well, and I know you do your research, John, and so that's why I really wanted to talk to you about these skinwalkers that you guys that you've put in your books, because I know you do your research on the region where you live, because you take a historical account to everything that you write about, and so I think that's wonderful. And I think in addition to we have like boots on the ground researchers out there, and then we have the academic researchers, the what people call armchair researchers and all that stuff. I think everything's important when it comes to researching cryptids and anything in the paranormal. And I love it because you do your research so well for your books that it seems like you have some inside information, John.
well, thank you. And
Yeah.
the information I get is from other researchers. People like yourself that go out in the woods and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like right now. Have you been out this summer with your?
I've been
with
out
your
a lot. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have gone out so much. I actually just did a big investigation up in Tennessee last month at a haunted property that had potential skinwalkers, actually, John.
Really?
Yeah. Up in North Tennessee in Whitleyville, not North Carolina, Whitneyville, Tennessee. Yeah. I
See, you're
explored a
tougher
cave.
than me. In the summertime, I would not be out camping with the chiggers and the ticks.
Oh, God. It was so hot.
Summertime is UFO season for me. I walk out the driveway, look up the sky. Do I see anything? Yes, no. If not, I just go back to the air conditioning.
Well, okay, so it had a cave. So if you know anything about caves, you go inside a cave and it's like 10 to 20 degrees cooler inside that cave.
Yeah.
Now, yes, we had to deal with potential skinwalkers in that cave. So we had to watch our backs the whole time we were in there. Thank goodness we didn't encounter any skinwalkers. Okay, but it's actually on Choctaw land.
Oh, was it? What state? Were you like Mississippi?
It was Tennessee, North Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the land she had 488 acres, and there was potential skinwalker activity, dogmen, Sasquatch, definitely UFOs. John, it's right up your alley.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of UFOs, I wanted to ask you tonight about these hearings that we've had, the congressional hearings. That something I haven't talked about on my show yet, because I've been talking about cryptids so much. I wanted to get somebody that was retired U.S. Air Force to have a conversation with me about this. Did you happen to watch the congressional hearings?
Yeah, I did.
UFOs?
I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched part of it. And funny thing, you say somebody from the Air Force, all these videos are coming from the Navy. I don't know if you realize that. It's Navy fighter pilots encountering these things. And I'm wondering if they're encountering because they're at sea and not over, the continental U.S. Like, most Air Force planes are flying over land, but out to sea it's going to be the Navy, and that's where these things are being spotted. So it was pretty groundbreaking stuff for me. I think the biggest thing for me that came out of it was admitting that there had been biological remains found in these crash sites, because you can look at these videos that they've been putting out since 2017. And yeah, they're doing some fantastic stuff, these aircraft, but you can still almost make a case, hey, that might be a drone, because it's doing things you couldn't do with a human being inside it anyway. It would kill them, the maneuvers. But, I still think, well, it may be otherworldly, but there's still that chance it's a drone. But now when you start talking about biological remains, that's a game changer. That absolutely says it's not from here.
Yeah, I found it very interesting. They were talking about interdimensional potential. Okay, like these things could potentially be interdimensional crafts and beings. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, honestly. And I haven't had time to really watch all the hearings, but I watched a good bit of it. And there was a lot of stuff that really caught my attention, John. And if you're familiar with my team's research, we've actually encountered a black cube or a cube out in the field. And they were talking about the craft that they had encountered for over a period of 8 years up until even the present right now. It was a cube, like a gray colored cube in a sphere.
In a sphere,
and that's what these crafts look like, they said.
Well, I'll be darned. Well, there you go. I mean, that's something. And okay, are you able to say whereabouts you saw these? What state anyway, or is it something you?
It was in the South.
It was
It's
in
in
the
the South.
South.
I can't give the location away, but it was in the South. Yeah. It was down here where I live somewhere
Well,
in
that's
the
really
wilderness.
interesting.
Yeah, at the meadow.
Could you
It
get
was
a
at the
size
meadow.
on it? Could you estimate
Yeah.
how big it
It
was?
was it wasn't the size of a football field, okay, like they were talking about. It was about the size, what I always say, it's like the size of a shed behind your house. Like
Really?
it was
Yeah.
it's like a tool shed size, okay? It was big enough for two men to walk up to it and into it and disappear, and it looked like it always just reminds me of like a garage or something like that size. Yeah. So,
And
but
no
it wasn't
sound
as
that
big
you
as
could tell?
no, there was nothing. All we could see in the video that we have that was recorded of them walking up to it, it's just a heat signature. So it wasn't solid. It wasn't solid at all. So I can't say that was an actual craft. We call it a portal because we don't know what else to call it.
Right.
But it could have been a craft, John. Absolutely. It could have been a
Well, yeah,
craft.
I'm
You know,
thinking it
in that,
was. Absolutely.
yeah,
Well, okay. Thanks for telling me that. Don't
yeah,
be surprised you see it in one of my books. It's things like this is where I get ideas for books I'm writing, or you know, you'd be surprised how just hearing something like this can morph into 3 or 4 chapters. So I love hearing people's encounters with things like this.
yeah. Okay, so David Politis has that movie, the Missing 411, the UFO movie. I haven't seen it. I'm like the only person that hasn't seen it yet. And I regret not seeing that. But people have told me, and I actually saw a little excerpt from it. There was a man describing a cube UFO in that
There is.
movie. Yeah. So it's
Yeah,
it's almost like
it's
that
pretty.
soft disclosure.
Well, for years, especially, I think it was about 2014, I first bumped into David Politis' research and his stories. And, he would never say what he thought it was. And I remember one of the stories, I don't know if you recall this, the Steve Martin, was that the name of the little boy that disappeared? I think it was in the
I don't
Great
know.
Smoky Mountains. And,
Hmm.
even the Green Berets came out looking for this kid. And I mean, he was just gone in a flash. And another family had seen something, that they weren't sure looked quite human, but was humanish looking, with something thrown over his shoulders. And they were thinking it might have been that little boy. So automatically I'm just getting into Bigfoot research, and I'm thinking, well, that had to be Bigfoot. And so I was always assuming these things, taking people in these national parks was probably a Sasquatch. And but then he started having the same things happen in cities, and outskirts of cities, and in places you wouldn't find a Sasquatch. And so now it does kind of make sense that it could possibly be UFOs. And now that they're admitting, yes, there's been biological remains, it makes you question that even more. That seems to be a very valid answer for what's causing some of these disappearances.
Yeah, absolutely. They actually also talked about getting crashed UFOs, I guess. I mean, at some point, they're talking about people being harmed by these non-human entities. Okay, like the potential of like people that have been hurt by them and by the craft. And this is something I'd heard before, John. At some point, I had a discussion. Maybe it was with you. I don't remember. I do a lot of shows, John, and I
There
can't
was
remember.
a couple of women. I think it was around 75 to 78 down in South Texas, and they had a little boy with them, and they encountered a UFO over a highway, and they got out, and then some helicopters came, and the UFO left. It was like the helicopters were chasing it. But I believe both of them women um, developed cancer and died within a couple of years of that event. Now I don't know what happened to the little boy. I haven't done any follow up on it, but I've seen one of them interviewed. I've seen an interview of one of the ladies a couple of times. I think it may have been on In Search Of or something like that. But yeah, that's one I can think of where people were harmed by the craft. Bob Lazar mentioned that he thought some people may have died out at Area 51 at S4 when they tried to cut up what they thought was, I think they cut a hole in or entered, made some kind of incision in what they considered the power source for one of these UFOs they had, and I believe it killed somebody, maybe more than one. So yeah, you know, you don't know what you're messing with there. So what kind of energy or toxins, you know, it could be anything.
Okay, so let's just say that cube that my team experienced out in the field was a craft of some sort, because when it's the gentlemen were guided to it, they walked up to this cube. Okay, it was a cube. It was 3-dimensional. Okay, and when they walked up to it, they couldn't see it with their own eyes, but they disappeared. Their heat signatures disappeared as they walked up to it. The environment changed. They knew to walk back out of it. They walked out, backed out. Their heat signatures reappeared. The cube shrunk down, John, and then it moved and it disappeared. Okay, let's just say that was a craft.
I would think that would be a craft, but didn't you have a member of your team enter a portal at one time?
That's the portal. That's what we consider to be the portal.
Okay.
But what if it wasn't a portal? What if it was a craft? And
yeah,
I'm just saying, both of them got sick after that. They got hit with some radiation, and yes, we do have a lot of radiation when anything paranormal happens. Like, not a lot, like a little tiny spike of radiation will happen during any kind of paranormal activity out in the field. Okay, because we measure, and
you do carry a Geiger counter or measuring equipment. That's smart. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Now, Bob got an aggressive form of cancer shortly after his cancer return, and then the other gentleman that walked in, he died about it's been 2 years now, I believe.
Really?
Since he passed away. Now, he got a heart condition. Now, we're not saying that was 100%. We believe it was connected, but we have our suspicions. He was a healthy man, very healthy. Army Ranger, retired.
Wow.
Okay. Special Forces guy. So he we have our suspicions, John, that could have made him very sick.
I would think so. I don't know if I wouldn't walk into one. I wouldn't walk up to one. If there's something that wanted to encounter me, it's going to have to come get me. I just don't think I would walk up to something like that, because, you know, well, if you look at it, in your case, they're batting 1,000, you know, so.
Yes. Well, you know, it was interesting.
Two guys walked in, and neither one of them had a good reaction to it. Yeah.
That's right. Well, it wasn't immediate. They didn't know, but it was pretty quickly after that. Yeah, pretty soon. So there are dangers to this research that we do out there, and I'm just glad that they didn't get sucked into this, whatever that was, and disappeared forever. You know, and I think that's where a lot of these missing people are going, John, out of these parks and you know, national forests and things. I think that's where they're going.
So too. If you ever get a chance to see the one about the UFOs, watch it. It's pretty spooky. I watched it one night. I couldn't sleep, and I watched it about 3 o'clock in the morning. It's just kind of creepy, the things some of these guys talked about before they disappeared. There was one guy that saw these UFOs before he disappeared, so may have been more, but it's just a creepy story.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, anything happening out in the woods is a little bit creepy. And Derek has a good point. These craft are putting out projections, holographic projections. They did talk about that too in the hearing. I do recall them saying that they're potentially multi-dimensional craft, and potentially even beings. I guess.
You know,
John.
we all have our beliefs and our theories, and I tend to lean toward the multi-dimensional thing, just on the basis of how long it would take to move from star A to star B. And, you know, I know like science fiction movies like to show cryogenics and things like that. But I think if anything's possible, it's going to have to be a dimensional pop. You know, you get some kind of skip through a dimension or something like that, like maybe a wormhole or something, but you pick up a shortcut from A to B. You know, it's like, I think I've seen it, you know, like imagine this Toys box you would fold it, and now you're here and you can get to here. You know, if they can find a way to bend light, time, dimensions, they can do it then. And to me, that makes the most sense on how to get from one place to another.
Well, I mean, of course, I believe our governments, our military, I don't know, agencies, whoever they are, I think they've had access to this technology for a long time. And they know, I mean, you know, doing shows and knowing personally some of the guys with the secret space program, there's a whole lot more out there than what we're told. And it's all classified, right?
Well, you know, I remember when I was about to get out of the Air Force, the last 2 years I was in, I'd gone from being on the flight line to what was called disaster preparedness. It was kind of like FEMA for the Air Force. We were a little bit, you know, well, the biggest thing we did was teach nuclear, biological, chemical warfare defense training, which, you know, meant talking to people for a couple of hours, marching them gas chamber and gassing them, you know, all that. Anybody in the military, NBC, nobody cares. That's what it stood for. But also, you know, we had to do with disaster recovery, post-attack recovery, things like that. And I remember going through the checklist. I was lining up the checklists and stuff one day and making sure they were all in order. And there was a checklist for UFO encounter or UFO landing or investigation. And it wasn't much. It wasn't saying there was UFOs or anything like that. It just said, you know, security police would set a cordon, measurements would be taken. You know, you would send in like a disaster preparedness guy or somebody else with instruments, Geiger counter, whatever, see if the area was safe from any kind of radiation or any other contaminants. And I just remember looking at that and thinking, well, the Air Force position, you know, this is back in the early 90s, was UFOs don't exist. Why do we need a checklist? You know, I just thought it was kind of funny. Yeah. And, you know, I don't know if that was something that was specific to where I was at. I was in Georgia at the time, by the way. And it was something specific for that base or what. But I just thought it was kind of funny. I didn't think too hard on it, other than it's kind of weird when they say they don't exist, but they got a checklist. So
I know, right? It's like they say that Sasquatch isn't real, Bigfoot's not real, but allegedly there's a map that is a topographic map for the Air Force, actually, that classifies Sasquatch as a dangerous animal.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I did a show about it.
That may be military wide for out in the Pacific Northwest. In some of the training areas, they do survival schools and stuff out there. And that may be why. Plus, I do have to say, on that checklist, UFO is unidentified. Once it's identified, it may not be a spacecraft. You know, that checklist could have been there in case some kind of aircraft with hydrazine or something crashed, and, you know, there was hydrazine poisoning that could kill people if they got into it. Space shuttle. Oh, how many people got sick? Remember the last space shuttle that came apart in what was it, 97 or so? I forget. Not to challenge it, one after it, where the parts fell all over the United States. They fell in Texas and played. A lot of people got sick because they went out there and handled some of that debris. And that's why you would have a checklist like that too.
Wow. Well, and also, okay, so allegedly, I may or may not have known someone who may or may not have done some crash retrieval. I don't know. I'm just saying. UFO crash retrieval stuff, right? I don't know if somebody told me this or if I read it somewhere. I don't know how I have this information, John. I really don't. I don't remember. I've done so many shows. Everything melds together at this point. But there were servicemen, like people in our military, that were there doing UFO crash retrievals that were getting very sick, and they were getting headaches and potentially, I don't know if it was like brain tumors or what was going on, but allegedly there was some sort of helmet that was made to put for these people to wear when they go do these crash retrievals, so they don't get their headaches and they don't get tumors, they don't get, you know, all the radiation doesn't go to their head. I don't know where I don't know where I got that from.
When you said there were these helmets, I was thinking that they recovered these helmets and somebody
Well,
put it
maybe they
on.
did.
And I was thinking, and I was about to laugh. Sounds like a typical GI. He goes, "Oh, look at this," but
Well,
puts
you
it
know
on,
what?
not knowing what's going to do to his head.
That's a possibility though, too, though, isn't there a whole lot of reverse engineering going on, you think? From
I
taken
believe
from crash
so.
sites?
I believe there is. I mean, reverse engineering is not a new thing. The Russians did it to us at the end of World War II. We had, I think it was 4 or 5 of our B-29s that were bombing Japan had to land in Soviet occupied air territory for whatever reason, and the Russians kept them. And then they came out and they reverse engineered those bombers because they were the peak of technology, bomber technology in 1945. The Russians kept them, and then they came out. They developed, our code name for it was the Bison, but it was basically a Russian-built B-29 super fortress. And so, yeah, they reverse engineered and built their own.
Oh
So
my
it's not
gosh.
a new concept. It's been around for a long time.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I don't know if they disclosed this during this hearing, John, but how far do you think it goes back? Like how many years has it been since they actually retrieved a non what do they call it, a non-human body or a non-human entity? What do they call those? I wrote it down. A non-human. How long do you think it's been? Roswell, or do you think before?
I think before. I think Cape Girardeau, Missouri may have been our first encounter with that. There was a crash there in 1941 before we were in the war. There was also a crash in the Black Forest in Germany, I think maybe 38, maybe a little young earlier, where they had like the same thing. And I think we may have had biologicals then, if not sooner. Look at the old story. Have you heard about Aurora, Texas? Supposedly had the UFO. I think it was in the 1800s, late 1800s, and they buried the little guy somewhere there in that cemetery in Aurora. So who knows how long we've had them. But I've always wondered if, it was kind of a thought, are these crashes that they had like in Black Forest, Germany, is that where Hitler got his jump on the technology to create the first jets and this and that? And if we had picked up stuff from the Cape Girardeau crash, is that where we got the jump on having things like fission and the atomic bomb? And it makes you wonder, or makes me wonder anyway.
It does. Makes you wonder. I mean, some of the things that I've heard, there's one thing that I know that I remember hearing that was created from being like reverse technology from a spacecraft. That was Velcro. Have you heard that before?
Yeah. Yes, I have.
That's interesting, right?
Right. Yeah.
Of all things.
We had a lot of stuff kind of sneak into our culture, everyday lives that came from the space programs in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. That's fascinating. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I don't know. This is all just very historical. I mean, the fact that they're coming out, it's almost like we're getting disclosure now, John. Do you think that there's some sort of an agenda behind this? I mean, why are they doing this now?
Okay. Well, I really hope it's not just to get our attention off everything else. Things are a mess right now. It's not really. I just noticed in the last week, gas jumped 30 cents again.
Oh my gosh. Yes, it did.
And I'm like, what caused this? And, I really hope and pray it's actual disclosure. I just hope it's not a red herring or, the old sleight of hand, look over here while I do something over here, So I really do hope it's genuine disclosure. I feel like it is basically because of the people they're interviewing. I mean, those are top-notch Americans, they're truthful. They're people I would trust, so, talking about like Lieutenant Commander Faber and the other 2 gentlemen, they seem like trustworthy individuals.
They do. There's Ryan Graves, David Grush, and David, is it Fravor?
Fravor. Yeah. And I think it was Grush. Isn't he the one that brought out the biologicals? Was it him or was it the other guy?
You know what? I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't remember who said what. I don't remember. I think Ryan Graves was coming out with most information actually when I was watching it. So I was thoroughly impressed though. I wasn't expecting to even get that much information.
No, I wouldn't.
Or them to give us that much information.
Well, at first I'm thinking, okay, it's just the same old stuff they showed us a couple of years ago, but there was more. Your spear with the
cube
square, the cube. I've heard that mentioned before. And Lou Elizondo is one of the programs he's on regularly. They mentioned that they interviewed one of the pilots that had encountered that sphere with a cube inside. So,
wow. Well, that's okay. So the cube is actually how I became good friends with my buddy Barry Littleton.
Yeah,
because we were both speaking at a conference, and I had just spoken about a cube that my team encountered. And then I heard his presentation, and he's showing pictures of a cube that he encountered inside of a spacecraft when he had been basically abducted by ETs at one point. So we bonded over that, and we set out on trying to figure out what these cubes are. We did shows after shows together of about the cubes. And lo and behold, here we go with disclosure. And they're talking about cubes being spacecraft and stuff. So it's mind blowing. I just want to state publicly, I was talking about this about 2 years ago, y'all, publicly. Okay.
Has
so everybody knows.
Barry ever let on, and if he has, I don't even know if I should ask this because it's kind of personal, but his health has been good as far as you know.
Oh, well, Barry actually at some point he's had a couple of near-death experiences and was in the hospital for a long time. He's had some health issues actually and stuff. So yeah. I think it stemmed from an accident, most of it. So yeah, but he's here today. It's a miracle he's alive actually right now. So yeah, I don't know.
I know like Travis Walton, some of these people have been abducted. They never seem to have health issues. I guess that's why I was asking that. But then again, if I think being abducted may be a whole different trip than running up into a glowing cube and sphere out in the woods.
I know. I mean, seriously. Let me tell you something, which is really funny. Having to come up with protocol is like what you're going to do if we ever experience another portal or a cube. Tying ropes around people, like holding on to it and pulling them out. I mean, it's weird, right?
I wouldn't encourage anybody to enter it. I mean, if whatever's controlling that thing wants you in, it will bring you in safely, I would think, or else it's going to bring you in and never put you back. But okay, imagine this. Say you took like a Harrier jump jet, they can land vertically up and down, or one of the new F-35s that can do it. So this thing lands, and he's got his engines full bore, and he's landed in front of a bunch of little people who've never seen anything like this in their whole life. The fire's coming out of the back end, so they don't want to go. The fire's bad. They know fire's bad, so they run up to the intake and get sucked down the intake. You don't know what you're going in on, so that's kind of an example why I think you shouldn't approach these things too close.
Oh my gosh, I wouldn't. Listen, I'm not one of the people who's ever volunteered. As a matter of fact, we were asking everybody who has the best health insurance. Okay, who's got the life insurance policy? And I'm a mom of a young child, so I am not on the list of people going into the cube ever. Okay,
so nobody's going to tie a rope around you.
I'll film it. I'll stand back and watch whoever goes in go in, and I'll be there to call 911 if we need to. We'll get somebody to come extract the rest of us out of there if needed. But yeah, it's but I mean, these real life things that we encounter out there call for some real life solutions. Like, what are we going to do? We got to come up with a plan.
I can understand to a point if you encounter something like this and you're thinking, I may never see this again. And I can understand human curiosity, but I don't know about just actually walking in. That took a lot of guts. But like you said, one of the guys was a special forces guy, and the other was probably adventurous. I mean, they wouldn't be out doing what they're doing if they weren't adventurous guys. So I can see people doing it, but I don't know. It just
Well, we do. Listen, if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be my team, and I'll come back. We'll be talking about it, and
take like a uncooked ham or big pot roast next time. Tie a rope around it and throw it in there. Pull it out, see how it looks.
Oh my gosh! Oh, I don't know if aliens eat that stuff, but who knows? I don't
know.
Well,
if it comes out uncooked, you might be safe to try going in.
Uncooked. Oh my gosh! I know. Who knows? Hey, the last time I went out to the meadow where the thing showed up, I mean, I took Ben out there, my son, and we've gathered up like quartz rock from right where the portal opened, and I've been giving out little pieces of quartz to like some of my friends and stuff. When I see them, I'm like, all right. Just wait for that hologram to show up in your house one night, whatever. Yeah, some aliens or whatever. But no, it's all in good fun. But
hey, this area with the quartz, did you have any like magnetic issues, like true north, not pole swapping, magnetic poles swapping on the compasses?
We've had that happen out in the meadow, yeah, for sure. Where all the compasses, all of our equipment starts going crazy and malfunctioning. So yeah, absolutely, it's an area of high strangeness.
Yeah, there's a crystal mine near here, near Mena, Arkansas. It's about 45 miles away. And I went out there one weekend with a friend of mine, and it was pretty strange. There's a lot of crystal and stuff, and you could take your compass and put it on a metal, regular T-post for barbed wire, and it would show north going this proper direction. You could go the other one, and it would be pointing south instead of north, and you could take it down the bottom and it would change again. It was pretty weird.
Yeah. I just recently was given a blind target to remote view, and it turned out to be the Bermuda Triangle.
Oh, really?
And it turns out with my data, it was all about crystals. There's crystals down in the ocean, and the crystals are putting off some kind of energy that like takes all the equipment and makes it go haywire and stuff when it comes to electronics and compasses and all that stuff. And so it had to do with these crystals that are under the ocean and gems and things like that, which was really interesting.
I still want you to one day, when you have the time, to remote view the Kecksburg UFO.
Oh yeah, I'll have to write that down. I'll do it. We'll do a show on it sometime. I'll put it on the list of all my other targets. Yeah, that'll be awesome. Yeah, well, hey, let's talk a little bit before we go tonight, because we still got a few minutes. We got a little while. I would love to hear do you have any updates on any kind of Sasquatch sightings, anything going on in Oklahoma?
Well, I just saw a thing a couple of days ago. We have a group that kind of work out of Honobia a lot. It's called NOBRO, Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research Organization. And one of their guys, and I like this guy, he's just a good guy. He's honest, got a lot of integrity, and he posted about a Class A sighting here. Now, it was back in February, I think, and I meant to look it up before I came on. But if anybody's interested, go to NOBRO, Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research Organization, and you can find the stories there. As a matter of fact, I think it's posted on Daryl's group. What is that?
Bigfoot Believers and Other Creatures. Yeah,
it's posted in there as well.
Oh,
but that's been about all I've heard about.
Okay, well, cool. Well, you guys have some really interesting stories up there with the siege of Honobia, right? Or Honobia, if I get that right.
Oh, Honobia, yeah.
Yeah, and
here's something that's interesting, and it's been kind of a little mystery with me for the past few months, but I've been noticing at nighttime, if I look to the south, I'll see a little, I'll see, how a satellite looks at night. Well, a couple of times I've seen this little satellite looking toward me, and it'll get to a certain point, and it reflects light real well for about a second. Well, one night I was watching it do it, and it reflected light, and after the reflection went out, I couldn't see it anymore. And I thought, okay, it's completely in a shadow now. But then I saw there was just a faint little pinpoint of light I could see, and I'm watching it, and it's moving, and it kept moving, and it got even with another star, not anywhere near the star, things light years away. I understand, but it quit moving because I was using that as a judge on tracking its movement, and all of a sudden it gets there and stops, and then it flashes again, it reflects sunlight again, And then instead of going from north to south, it moved west. And it flashed again, and it moved off. And I'm thinking, okay, it's not an airplane. It's way too high to be an airplane. It's not a satellite. It's satellites don't just change their orbit and come to a sudden stop and then move over, 100 miles or so and then proceed on. And I told a couple of people about it, and I asked, okay, Vandeventer or whatever. And I'm like, okay. And I've seen it, at least 3 times. And a couple of weeks ago, we were over with some friends one evening, and there were 7 adults. And the woman in the house, we were all sitting outside, and she said, hey, what is that? And finally, it was this thing, and it was doing the same thing. And there were 7 of us that saw it this time. Now, I'm not saying it's a flying saucer UFO. It is unidentified. And again, the only thing I'm wondering is, do we have some kind of drone that can manipulate, they can manipulate, that's Porky Pig for you folks, but that they can manipulate from the ground and have him stop in orbit, possibly using retro rockets or something, move over and proceed on in a new orbit. I don't know, but it's interesting. I have no idea what it is. I can't find anything about anybody revealing any information on it, any technology, like that. So, but yeah, I was glad to have some other witnesses. It's always better when you got other people to see something.
It is. I know. And I love that you did that. The first time that I had some serious UFO sightings, like out in the field. My partner that I was sitting out there with, he was like, okay, because I kept saying, I see these lights and they're moving weird, but I can't tell if my eyes are playing tricks on me. And he taught me to put my finger up and to put it right on where that light was.
Yes.
And to let it move and keep your finger as still as you can. And that's how I could tell that it was moving in triangular patterns and stuff. It was the finger test, as we say down here in the South.
I had that happen in Texas back in 2017. I had one moving in a triangular pattern, and I think I told you that one of my earlier visits on the show. But yeah, it's freaky when you see that. It really is.
Wow, it is weird. Speaking of weird stuff, you actually have a Bigfoot that you sighted on your property where you live, right?
Do you have any activity? I cannot think it was anything else. And the funny thing is, I was trying to debunk it, and I only saw it for about 4 seconds, and it ran. But as soon as I saw it running, I knew what it was. And so the next day I'm going to debunk it. I go over there, I'm thinking, okay, that thing was, it's probably just some real fast kid or something, it's only about 6 foot tall. Well, the thing was nearly 8 foot tall. It was about 7.5 foot because I was able to, I remember a branch on a tree it ran by, and there was no tracks. It was the heat of the summer. It was August 2018. And I wished I hadn't seen it. I mean, for the longest, I wished I hadn't seen it, because if I told anybody, yeah, right, whatever, And but then Monica and a couple other people saw one a few months later, same area. And a neighbor I have, the funny thing, you got to see Honobia here. And I got good friends I love to death. And if I tell them about Bigfoot, they'll laugh me out of the county, And then I got friends that think they're real and say they've had encounters. So it just boils down to who you're talking to, what they've seen. I don't think, a lot of people come out here Bigfoot hunting, and I just don't think you're going to find them hunting for them. I think if you're going to see one, it's going to be a total pure accident, like my sighting was. I just happened to look down and bang, there it was, So I don't know. It could be wrong. Maybe it's just I'm lazy and I don't want to go out looking for them. Funny thing was, though, it kind of like people ask, well, what do you think Bigfoot is? Well, by what I saw, I think it's an animal. But from other things I've encountered, and like I've seen the disappearing footprints and things like that, where there should be more footprints because the material's so muddy or soft, and there's not. But when you encounter things like that, you got to wonder, well, are they just an animal or are they something else? And it's like, after I had my sighting, I almost I was that close to just being bored with it. It was like, okay, I've seen one, big deal. I want to get back to UFOs. But and people say, well, you're crazy, man. You should be out there every night. I'm like, no, because you can sit out there every night and the rest of your life and not see one. You know, it's just one of those things. I've told this story before, and it cracks me up. Got an elderly couple we know. It's funny, me in my 60s calling people elderly, but they are elderly compared to me.
You're a young man.
The husband had, pretty intense Bigfoot story he's tried to tell me a few times, and every time he's about to get to the great part of the story, his wife will go, "Oh, you didn't see no Bigfoot. I've lived out here my whole life. Them things don't exist." And every time he's trying to tell the story, she does it. So the last time he's telling the story, she starts that again. "Oh, there ain't no such thing as Bigfoot. You saw this, you didn't see that, and blah blah." And then she stopped abruptly and looked at me right in the eye and said, "But you know what? We saw a flying saucer on the way to Tallahena one night." So it's okay to see a flying saucer, but it's not okay to see Bigfoot. And that always tickles me.
That's hilarious.
But it's just the person you're dealing with, what their experiences are, what their beliefs are. Sooner or later, people are going to encounter something they don't believe in. Not everybody, but it happens, and it changes your view. To me, it was a little more comfortable thinking, they're not out there. And then when I see this, it's like, okay, be aware of your surroundings now. Not that I feel any danger or anything like that. I don't. But it was a cool thing. It really was a cool thing. But at the same time, when you see something and you're the only witness, you're going to take some hits when you share the story. So just gotta take my hits. I'm still glad I saw it. For the longest, I wouldn't mention it. And then I mentioned it, and I started taking hits. And I'm like, okay, unless somebody brings it up like you just did, I'm not gonna bring it up myself anymore.
Well, I love it. I love your story, and I have another question. Your legislature has not tried to pass another bill for Bigfoot hunting season, have they?
I haven't heard of it. I don't think they have.
They better not.
I really think that was more of a stunt than anything else to get tourism, because again, how bad of an idea is it to bring armed men who are walking around on 2 feet to go out in the woods looking for something else walking around on 2 feet? Sooner or later, somebody's gonna shoot a human. They're gonna get scared or something like that. They're gonna shoot and miss, and the other guy's gonna be armed too and get mad and shoot back. So I think the whole thing was a train wreck waiting to happen. And yeah, I haven't heard anything else about it. I'm glad they kind of put it to bed. I hope anyway.
Yeah, I hope so. Because I don't like the thought of Bigfoots being hunted. Yeah, I am the cryptid huntress, but I don't harm anything, y'all. I'm not out there to harm them. I'm out there looking for them, to communicate. I'm hunting them to communicate with them, y'all. Okay.
Well, I've gotten that way in my when I grew up, I hunted, fished, and enjoyed it. My dad, he was a big hunter and fisherman, and I went deer hunting and did all that. And I don't know what happened to me, but about age 30, I just lost interest in killing anything. I mean, I still eat meat, and if I needed to hunt to feed myself or my family or anybody else, yes, I would hunt. I just make the decision not to anymore. I don't know. Yeah. Even when I was young and I shot some, I felt bad. Heck, I felt bad for fish when I cleaned them. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just soft-hearted, but I don't begrudge anybody else hunting. If that's your thing, do it. It's just not for me anymore. And like I say, if the time ever comes I have to live off the land, well, I'll change my tune then.
Well, listen, the time has come to end the show today, unfortunately. This has been amazing, John. I always have so much fun when you're here.
I know, I love being on the show.
I know, it's so fun. Now let's talk about your books. Okay, we got a couple of minutes. Tell everybody, first of all, about your book series and where to find your books.
Okay, well, my first series, Relics, is adult novels, and it starts out in Tallahena, Oklahoma, with a group of Sasquatch that start terrorizing the town and introduces to some characters. And it's a 3-book series. The story's long and pretty exciting from what people seem to love it. So, yeah, there you go right there. There's the covers. The other series, I kind of call it Relics Light, but it's Shadow Chasers. And it's for young adults. Books aren't near as big, and the settings for all 3 of those are in Tallahena. Now, in the Relics series, first book, Relics, is in Tallahena. Second book, Relics 2, is here in Honobia. And the third book, Relics 3, takes place in Heavener, Oklahoma, about 45 miles away. So they're all in this same general area. I just finished the last book right there, Curse of the Ishkatini, in the Shadow Chases series. And as I said, those books are based on 3 junior high kids, or the characters, Allie, Logan, and Finn. And the funny thing about those, my adult readers are reading those and love them too. So if you want to try one of the youth series books, because they're smaller, a lot smaller, and see if you like the story, that might be the place to go. Plus, a lot of the characters from the Relic series make cameos in the Shadow Chasers series. So,
excellent books. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. And you can find my books at www.relicsbook.com. And this is the book I'm working on now. I hope to have it out in September, The Channeling, and it's different from anything I've written before. It's actually going to be about contact with a civilization from outer space, and I'm really enjoying writing this book, and hopefully I'll get it finished up soon. And it's looking like it's going to end up being a series too. So a lot of ideas are coming in as I'm writing this, and it's just been a lot of fun to write. And I hope when it comes out in September, you folks enjoy it yourselves, buy it, and have a good time reading it.
Well, heck yeah. And John, please come back and see us again, and come hang out with me. Everybody, go to relicsbook.com and get your copies today. They are amazing. It's my favorite book series. And my son loves his youth books as well, John. So thank you so much, John. It's always fun having you here.
I love being on the show anytime.
Well, thank you. And tell Monica, thank you so much for my beautiful shawl that she knitted me.
I'll tell her.
It made my day. It's beautiful. So, okay, John, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Okay. All right, y'all. That was amazing. I just love John, y'all. Don't forget that right after this show, Marquise has a great program set up for us tonight. So y'all go over to After Hours as soon as you leave my show tonight. I will see you guys next time on Off the Trails. I'll have some more awesome shows for y'all next weekend. But for now, I'm the Cryptid Huntress. I'm headed off the trail. Y'all have a great week. See me on my channel. Bye.